I wanted to talk a bit about creating a successful blog. Obviously this applies really to social media as well. But so I started blogging 3 years ago now, just as a hobby, and never meant anyone else to read it, which feels a bit ironic now that millions of people do. But it's been such an interesting journey, and I've definitely got so many things really wrong. But I think there are a couple of points that I've learned that if this is anything that interests you to do around something that you're looking to create, then I hope this is helpful. When I was at university, all my friends kind of felt as if you had, I don't know, sort of 8 careers that you had to sort of almost go into. You know, you had to be a lawyer, a doctor, do finance, consulting, PR, marketing. And it was as if there was nothing outside of it. And to be honest, I hadn't really thought about that either. And then you suddenly see that there's this whole world that you can kind of create yourself around what you're interested in and what you're passionate about. Kind of following on from that, I think what's so important is finding a voice that, again, sounds like you, so that people know you and they get to know you and they feel like they have a connection with you, and you start to stand out more rather than just being generic. As I said, there's just so many people doing similar things, and you'll always look at people and be like, oh, they've already done this, I can't do it. But it's not true, because no one can do you, you know, and therefore you're always going to be able to put a different spin, a different twist on something. Even if you feel that it already exists. So I started writing my blog to teach myself to cook. And then I did it for about a year. I didn't show anyone for the first 2 months or so, and then I showed my friends and family, and it just sort of slowly grew through word of mouth for the first year. But slowly, and then after a year I realized it had 1 million hits, and I was like, oh, okay, there must be a market out there that's bigger than my mum. And so that's when I decided I would do it properly. And I just started playing around really with social media, and that just really helped me learn what people were looking for and what they liked and what they didn't like and what was popular. And then just reading every single blog comment, every single tweet, everything, and just really taking that information in and trying to tailor what I was doing around that. If you really look at their photos and read the captions, you're going to learn so much about what people like, what they don't like, what they want, what they don't want. And that's, for me, it's been amazing at growing my brand and adapting it. Like, everything I do now is basically trying to make readers happy. It's what I love, but it's always going to be based on what people want to read as well. And I think that's really, really helped it grow so much. And then obviously people really appreciate it. I mean, everyone appreciates the fact that you've taken time to acknowledge them and appreciate them. And I think, you know, you can't really put a price on that loyalty. You just you create a real audience who really genuinely are excited about it, rather than looking for numbers to start with. So don't focus on something for being mainstream, but something that you're genuinely so passionate about, because I think that's always going to come through. And then what's really cool is then you can then use the audience that you've created to launch anything that you want to do, which is just amazing. You don't have to rely on other brands, anything. You can create an audience that are interested in whatever it is that you're interested in. And then they'll want to buy into what you do because they love it. I have no idea where they came from. Honestly, I really don't. I think being really personable, helps. I don't mean when I talk to people, but just online. I think people like that because they feel like they can relate to you and they think that they know you. And I think that did really help it grow. I mean, I started off on Instagram with no followers. When the book came out, I had, I'm not sure, 200 or something thousand. And so it has grown hugely with all the press and publicity around that. But it grew to a few 100,000 literally through hashtags. I haven't actually made any money really from the blog or from Instagram. But because you have such an audience between the both, people want you to do cooking classes or talks, or, you know, you can do that book and all this kind of stuff. And so it's more that the audience that those have created revenue streams, but that are external to any of the social media. But I would say that the blog and Instagram were really equal in that. I've met a lot of people who, you know, they did go to university and they started at university maybe, and then they did have a normal job and they just did this on the side while they basically, they did dedicate a lot of time to it in the evenings and weekends and things, but it meant that it's not so terrifying because you have a traditional career, you have a stable income, so you don't have to be worrying about that, but it means that you can kind of explore that option. And I've got lots of friends, who did it for a year and then quit their jobs because they were like, I'm now at a stage where I know I can make a living from this. I know the more time I put into this, the more I can do with that. And I think that does really help because it just removes the fear. So I think there really is something, to be said for doing something conventional while you find your feet with this, while you experiment with it, you experiment with your audience, see what they like, feel like you're creating a stable kind of brand and positioning for yourself. And then when you feel comfortable with that, it's much less scary to do it full time.